I think we may say that the achievement of doing nothing to advance peace places Obama at a considerably higher moral plane than some of the earlier recipients, whose names I'll omit out of politeness.
Thank you so much for joining us to talk about activism.
Glad to be here.
How would you describe this moment in history? What do you think is at stake right now?
There's some very major issues at stake, which literally have to do with long-term species survival. One of them is environmental crisis. Another is the persistent threat of nuclear war. And then there are numerous other major crises.
How did you first become an activist? What age were you?
That's too long ago to talk about. Actually my first article was in 4th grade when I was 10 years old, so about the rise of fascism in Spain. It was just never a choice. It was always there.
What do you think the role of music and art is in social movements?
It's always had a major role. So in the 60s, for example, although I'm a kind of old-fashioned conservative, I had tried to keep away from it, but rock music, Bob Dylan, all these things were very inspiring to a lot of young people. And if you go, the same here in Ireland. So mural art, for example, was a very significant part of the activist movements. And that's every popular movement in history that I know of anything about. For years, when I'm asked to sign things after a talk, the one that was at the top of the list was a punk record, which was in the first Gulf War, 1991. Some punk group with a name I couldn't resist. It was called Bad Religion. Asked me to talk for 8 minutes into a tape that they sent me just about the war. So I talked for 8 minutes and sent it back to them, and back came a record, small records with my boring talk on one side and a song on the other side, which they assured me was an anti-war song. I gotta be down to be free. Watch out. I couldn't make head or tail out of it, but I gave it to a friend who had a 14-year-old daughter, and she wrote me a very eloquent account of what it meant and where it fit in the punk scene and so on. So yeah, I've had some connection.
So who inspires you right now? Is there anybody who's stepping up to provide these answers?
To tell you the truth, I could never point in my lifetime to notable people who inspired me. So take, say, the civil rights movement. Very important development, and Martin Luther King was a very admirable person, but he didn't inspire me. What inspired me was SNCC workers, students mostly, young students, first from black colleges in the South, joined by others who sat in on lunch counters and rode in freedom buses and were getting beaten and killed, and basically laid the groundwork for a popular movement where Martin Luther King could come and be an eloquent spokesman.
This unprecedented gathering of young people, I cannot help thinking that 100 years from now, the historians will be calling this not the beat generation, but the generation of integration.
I'm sure he would have agreed that the movement was created and led by the young activists on the ground. Most of whom are gone from history, as is usually the case.
So why is all the energy on the right as opposed to the left right now in terms of people protesting?
There's an easy answer from the right. The easy answer is rich liberals own the banks, own the media, run the government. All they want to do is give away your money to illegal immigrants and the shiftless poor, and that's an answer. They're setting up death panels to kill your grandmother, that kind of thing. That's an answer. It's a totally insane answer, but it's an answer.
I don't understand what's going on. We've got to wake the people up to realize that our country is just going down the tubes, and our government is doing it.
And people want an answer. they're not getting any other answer. Like liberal Democrats aren't telling them, yeah, your problems are because of the policies we've instituted in sport for the last 30 years. They're not saying that. So they're basically getting no other answers. And we know where that can lead. In fact, we've seen it. It's got a whiff of late Weimar Germany to it, where something similar was happening. My feeling is it's a big error to ridicule the demonstrators, the Tea Parties. I mean, what they're saying doesn't make any sense. But the grievances that are leading them to say it make a lot of sense. And it's our failure if the only answers they have are, the rich Democrats are giving it away to illegal immigrants and gays.
And there are also real prospects if we follow today's variant of the famous advice of the anarchist labor organizer Joe Hill before his execution. He said, don't mourn, organize, and we should be telling ourselves, don't ridicule, organize.
What's your take on the internet, its ability to push back on some of this?
Well, the internet's an interesting phenomenon. It can allow people to interact outside the major, largely controlled channels of information and communication. In fact, just about all activism or organizing is organized through the internet now.
Now, a lot of people, as they grow older, become more conservative, but you've stayed pretty radical. How did you do that?
There are people who've sort of said, okay, I'll accept society as it is, with its injustice, its oppression, its dangers, its threat to species survival. Yeah, that's an easy path to take. It's the usual path. It's there, but there are other moments come along when the latent activism erupts. Now, I, for example, didn't have to be an enthusiast for Barack Obama, but his campaign did energize lots of people, which means they were ready to be energized and they needed some kind of spark to set them off.
40 years ago, or for that matter, 10 years ago, it would have been unthinkable for the Democratic Party to field two candidates, a woman and an African American. And whatever one thinks of the Obama administration, it's no small thing for a black family to be in the White House.
I joined the Obama campaign in 2000, and he talked about there being something out there that was bigger than he was, and he recognized that. And so what do you think that thing was?
The thing was a profound concern about the direction in which society is moving. Now, that's not a marginal concern. 80% of the population thought that the country was going in the wrong direction. It's not surprising that he took as his slogans hope and change. Anyone who read the polls and is running for office would take those slogans.
One thing that I would ask people when I was on the campaign was, what did they hope for? But what people talked about a lot was if they were older, they would talk about wanting to have that feeling they had in the 60s again, a feeling that the options were limitless, but also a feeling of being connected to their neighbors.
If these were people who were, say, students in the 60s, yes, it was felt that options are limitless. Well, that changed in the mid-70s. Elite sectors and sectors that have power do not give it up happily, and it was being challenged. So there was a counter-reaction, which showed up in all kinds of ways. Such simple ways as, say, raising tuition. If students come out of college with a debt burden, they're trapped. If you go into college, say law school, and you dedicated to becoming a public interest lawyer or a civil rights lawyer, and you come out with $50,000 of debt, you've got to go into a corporate law firm. You put on a tie and a jacket and you think, I'm going to resist the corporate culture, but that's not so easy. Once you put on the tie and the jacket, then you become part of it. You internalize the values, the goals, the aspirations, and there are many other devices that have been imposed to try to protect the society from what's called the time of troubles. 60s are called the time of troubles, and there's a reason for that. It civilized the society, because that's the time when the civil rights movement brought some recognition of rights of minorities, the feminist movement began to develop concern for rights of women, the environmental movement developed is concerned for the rights of future generations. That's the time of troubles, and it's a well-chosen term.
We talked a little bit about the movement during the Obama campaign. Do you see that movement continuing, or has it lost some of its momentum since the administration?
Well, a lot of people were energized.
Every single day that we're in Washington, because Joe and I are committed to leading a government that is accountable, not just to the wealthy or to the well-connected, but to you.
So now you have what is literally called Obama's army. It's a marketing system. In fact, Obama, as I'm sure you know, won the advertising industry award for the best marketing campaign of 2008. The Obama campaign has been pretty explicit about what they expect of Obama's army. They expect it to wait for instructions and then to go out and press forward with what they call the Obama brand. Well, that's one option. The other option is they'll say, I'm not an agent of an advertising campaign, and I'm going to do what's right. And which choice is made is going to make a big difference. Actually, there's something similar at the Kennedy period. Kennedy also energized a lot of people, the Camelot, the glamour, and so on and so forth. And when they were disillusioned, as of course they were very quickly, they had a choice. They could have pursued the Kennedy brand, or they could have gone out and become civil rights marchers, anti-war activists, and so on. Fortunately, by my lights at least, they chose the latter, leading to the time of troubles. And the same choice today. In fact, the same choice always happens to be striking today because of the energizing effect of the mostly illusory campaign.
Professor Chomsky, thank you so much for talking to us today. It was really illuminating.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
People tell me that if I'm right